Jamie Wheal, the executive director of the Flow Genome Project, which is an organization dedicated to the science and application of neuroscience and optimal psychology. And I am the author of the recent book, Stealing Fire, which is all about the relationship of peak states to transformational culture. I mean, I think there's a lot of different intersecting sort of vectors that lead us to now. And no one of them by itself would have been enough, but all of them together are kind of putting us here. So, what I wrote about in Stealing Fire was four forces that happen to seem to be coinciding right now. Psychology and the evolution of that discipline, going from simply like Freud and everything's about mommy issues and sex, right, to the idea of expanded notions of ourselves. So we have much more sophisticated and complex models of human awareness, human personality, selfhood, and the complexities and variations of selfhood. So that's given us a lot of room, a lot of understanding. Even the idea of the notion of breakdown to breakthrough, the idea of like catharsis and mending being not a sign of illness or pathology, but actually a part of almost a Western modernized version of sort of shamanic initiation. So we kind of have a lot more room to consider ourselves in that space. Technology has been massively expanding. Even the simplest sense of things like fMRI machines and EEGs and the ability to take what used to be mythological or religious spiritual, then in the 20th century was psychological and mostly just based on kind of talking about our stuff and diagnosing it, kind of making up what seemed to be the case, to neurobiological and being able to map and track. What is it like when this is your brain on shopping, this is your brain on drugs, this is your brain on music, this is your brain on religion, and being able to say, there's actually physical, data-driven correlates to all that amazing interiority. The neurobiology, goes hand in glove with the technology, right? As we've had better measurement tools to really be able to track this, we've had much more sophisticated understandings of what's going on under the hood in our bodies, in our brains, in our endocrine system, in our respiratory system, in our cardiac system. And when you can tune those together, you tend to get compound results. And then obviously, the final one is pharmacology. And the expansion and awareness of different molecules and their effects. And, now there's a layer of, social and policy impact. And I don't think we can underestimate the role that Rick Doblin and MAPS have played, the Multidisciplinary Association for Psychedelic Studies, and, playing the longest of games, 30 years of very deliberately and very strategically saying, we believe these substances, specifically the class of psychedelics, including psilocybin, LSD, and sort of their, kissing cousin, MDMA, and saying not that we are trying to make the case for a psychospiritual validation. We're going in through the clinical, medical validation, and in doing so, working inside the rules and regulations to get to a place where those experiences and also the research are increasingly accessible. So all of those things have been happening kind of independent of us trying to make sense of the crazy world we're in. And at the same time, we're in an increasingly crazy world. And so more and more people, I think, when was this? This was the early 60s, when I think it was maybe late 50s to early 60s, was the near concurrent discovery of psilocybin, LSD, and serotonin. And, and that was a fascinating, incredibly rich period in studies of consciousness, studies of neurochemistry and their interrelationship. And sadly, as everybody knows, that first wave of psychedelic research got abruptly shut down, cut off, and mothballed. So in place of what could have been that psychedelic renaissance, it effectively went underground, right? You had Tim Leary, you had the counterculture, you had the tune in, turn on, drop out, which, effectively jumped the shark. And instead, within the realm of clinical pharmacology and discipline research, we got Prozac Nation. We still got the serotonin system, but we just got the weak sauce HT1 receptor site, like just numb it out. Like you won't feel awful, but you'll never feel great. And that became the sole insight we had into the entire serotonin system. And so what we're seeing today is we realize that antidepressants, SSRIs, the selective serotonin reuptake inhibitors, have limited efficacy. For the folks they do work for, they do work. But there's a massive overprescription of them. There's a lot of side effects that often come with them. And there are a lot of moderate to non-responders that are nonetheless getting them because that's all there is to offer. And so seeing the resurgence in psychedelic research, and specifically that class that interact with that system, is giving us new ways to manage anxiety, depression, new ways to address, what is being called the diseases of despair, which is just people trying to reckon with the overwhelming complexity of the world as we face it. And if it was just rocket shipping along, but was just super fast and super complicated, that would be one thing. Like, that would be stressful enough. But the fact that we are also now collectively becoming increasingly aware of existential threats to our way of life, potentially to our civil society, potentially even to civilization or humanity itself, well, that's a whole lot more to reckon with. And when you see all of those things in conjunction with the, what you could sort of call a sacramental diaspora. So let's say the advent of ayahuasca becoming popularized, not just Wade Davis and the occasional brave explorer, Richard Evans Schultes and the kind of the Harvard Indiana Joneses of the world back in the day, but that information coming into the West, many Westerners engaging in ayahuasca tourism coming back down, sort of see that almost as analogous to the dispersal of the Dharma from Tibet. So the invasion of the Chinese into Tibet pushed the Tibetans, many of them, into northern India and into the West. And the sort of good news, bad news of that was saying, hey, perhaps that was what was necessary to disperse the teachings of Tibetan Buddhism more broadly. And we're seeing something not dissimilar happen with the psychotechnologies of the indigenous traditions of South and Central America. So all of those are different lines crisscrossing and crashing into the now where we all are, and having this fairly unique and sort of highly potentiated moment.